Hey, welcome back to World Entertainment. How you doing? Did you have a good weekend? I hope you've had a good weekend. But over the weekend, some interesting news happened. And it's interesting because it makes you go, really? Okay. But then you go, really? Okay. And it is, of course, the news that they are looking to remake or reboot or relaunch yet again the Resident Evil franchise on the big screen. Now, we've only just recently had a remake, relaunch, reboot on Netflix. That movie, Raccoon City, or Welcome to Raccoon City, which was horrendous. Like, it was shockingly terrible. And now they're trying to do it again. And apparently there's a bidding war happening for this because of the guy attached to it. Now, the crazy thing with this as well is some of the studios that are vying for it, number one, do they really want to take the risk because they can't really afford to? And two, one of them has already had the last outing for the Resident Evil movies and it didn't go so well. But let's have a look at this anyway. So, the Resident Evil franchise is getting a fresh start with filmmaker Zach Cregger set to write and direct a new reboot. It's reported a heated bidding war is currently underway among the major studios, including Warner Brothers and Netflix. Cregger, known for his work on the 2022 horror hit Barbarian, has quickly made a name for himself as a leading voice in modern horror. His upcoming project Weapons has generated significant buzz and also went through a bidding war, ultimately ending up at Warner Brothers. Weapons is set to star Josh Brolin and Julia Garner, described as an interrelated multi-story horror epic about the disappearance of high school students in a small town. Honestly, kind of sounds like things we've seen a billion times, to be honest, but okay. Now, keep in mind, Barbarians came out, was a hit, and all of a sudden this guy is like the hot property, the one everybody wants, to the point that there was a bidding war to get his next project, which is his Weapons. This is it. This is the only stuff he's filmed. So it's kind of interesting that they've jumped for him. I can't remember what they said he was before he jumped. Actually, it might say in this. I think it was like games or something. I'm not sure. But it says, in addition to Cregger, the reboot will be produced by Constantine Film and the longtime rights holder of the Resident Evil, along with PlayStation Productions. Shay Hayton, whose credits include John Wick Chapter 4 and Army of the Dead, is co-writing the script. So straight out, you've got big issues then. It's like, okay, so you have Cregger writing and directing it. However, you still have the production company, Constantine Film, who's done all of the Resident Evil movies, still very much involved. And then this guy who's going to co-write it with him. John Wick Chapter 4, fine. Army of the Dead, that's the Zack Snyder one, the newer one that came out on Netflix, not so much. So you kind of start worrying a bit there. So it says, of note is that this reboot marks a departure from the 6 previous films starring Milla Jovovich, as well as the 2021 origin movie Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City and the recent Netflix series that bombed. While those films blended horror, sci-fi and action, Cregger's version is said to revamp the franchise and return things to the horror roots the games are known for, aiming to be more faithful to the original Capcom video game. So there's a lot to take where you're going, okay, that sounds interesting and that sounds like the right approach, but then everything else just sounds horrible. So hearing, oh, he wants to bring it back to its horror roots and follow the games more faithfully, you go, good, that makes sense. Of course, then you'd have to ask, well, which game? The first game when you're running around the mansion? The other games where you can kind of go more out into the city? Maybe the fourth game, the village, you know? So which exact game are you talking about here? But again, then things fall into the fact that, oh, you still have to work with everyone who's ruined all of the versions of this live action adaptations that we've been given. And it's like, why would you do that? Now, the companies regarding Warner Brothers and Netflix bidding heavily for this thing, Netflix, you look at it and go, you've just had a movie that was a disaster and a series that you had to cancel because it was a disaster. Why would you attempt to push more money to get another remake, reboot, reinvention, whatever, of Resident Evil? That makes no sense. As for Warner Brothers going so heavily into wanting to purchase this, you would think they would be more inclined to wait to see what this movie Weapons does, which, by the way, I've never heard of. I don't know if there's trailers or anything like that. I have no idea. But if that comes out and bombs, then they have the issue of, okay, we've just spent a crap ton of money on that, and now we've just put ourselves in to spend a crap ton of money for another remake of Resident Evil, which, quite frankly, nobody's asking for another remake. They put out so many of these things all the time that people are sick of them now. The only ones people seem to actually lean towards and go, actually, these work, are the animated ones. And they're not even that kind of, what way would you draw on 2D type of animation. They're those 3D kind of rendered animations. People really like them. They think they nail what the games do. Movies, not so much. Like, all the movies pretty much fail. They really do. Which is no surprise, because quite frankly, they all are absolute dog shit, including that first one. I remember watching that first one, we were like, this sucks. But the fact that they want to remake Resident Evil again with a guy who so far only has one movie that has actually been released, while you're waiting for another one to finally be released, it makes no sense to me. I don't think this is going to work the way they're all thinking it's going to work. But time will tell. We'll have to wait and actually see what happens with it. So, with that, I shall leave it there for this one. Like, share, subscribe. Let us know in the comments as well what you think of a remake, reboot, relaunch, whatever the hell it's going to be, of Resident Evil again. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.